This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. President Donald Trump is about to make major history this week. He's planning to appear in person to speak Friday at the annual March for Life in our nation's capital. It is, as you know, one of the most well-known events in the pro-life movement. Mark Martin joins us now with more. Mark, tell us about it.
Yeah, George, Trump will become the first president in U.S. history to appear at the march, which is now in its 47th year. The march has taken place every year since the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion with its Roe v. Wade decision. The president tweeted the news of his appearance, writing, "See you on Friday, big crowd." Vice President Mike Pence made a surprise appearance last year at the march on stage.
And we gather here because we believe, as our founders did, that we are, all of us, born and unborn, endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and first among these rights is the right to life.
Then he introduced a special guest to address the crowd from the White House.
This is a movement founded on love and grounded in the nobility and dignity of every human life. When we look into the eyes of a newborn child, we see the beauty and the human soul and the majesty of God's creation. We know that every life has meaning and that every life is worth protecting.
Trump reiterated his support then for pro-life legislation like the Hyde Amendment, which is meant to prevent federal dollars from supporting abortion. But again, this year he will be speaking at the march in person. Now, in January of 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion in the Roe v. Wade decision. The nonprofit legal organization Liberty Counsel reports that since that year, quote, approximately 62 million unborn U.S. children have been taken from what should be the safest place, the womb. George, back to you.
Mark, thank you. Joining me now from our nation's capital and our D.C. bureau there is Melissa Oden. She's the founder of the Abortion Survivors Network. Melissa, great to have you back on the show. So you'll be introducing a new advertisement tomorrow, I understand, at the March for Life called Faces of Choice. Tell us about it and how you're hoping this ad makes an impact on people.
I am so thrilled to share with you that we will be making history tomorrow to have the president on the stage for the first time ever, to have an abortion survivor. Claire Colwell is a twin survivor. I will also be on the stage as a saline abortion survivor. So there's history in that. And we will be unveiling an ad we've been working on in 2019, encouraging people to face the choice. Roe versus Wade was meant to be my death sentence, has led to, of course, the deaths of nearly 62 million children. And I think we've seen throughout our time that people who are victimized and marginalized are typically nameless, faceless, voiceless. It perpetuates the problem. And so our hope is that through this ad, people will come face to face with the true people who were meant to be victims of abortion. We're not going to be left nameless. We're not going to be faceless. We're not going to be voiceless anymore. And we hope that that continues to turn the tide in our culture to one that supports and respects life.
As my colleague Mark mentioned, Vice President Mike Pence was there last year. Were you surprised that President Trump made the decision that he will be there on the stage Friday?
Not surprised, but incredibly encouraged by that. I told someone earlier, I just couldn't stop smiling when I first heard that news. I am so thankful for the president's stance on the issue of life. And to be perfectly honest, he set an example for so many people like me to continue to be bold and be unafraid in this.
Is there anything different about or special about this year's event?
I think what's special is we saw such aggressive abortion legislation sweeping the nation last year. And we, of course, saw this battle even on born alive legislation. I'm sure many of the viewers heard the same things I did. People would say, well, that legislation isn't needed, it's unnecessary. But we saw lives like mine being sacrificed time and time again legislatively. So I think what's really different about this year is that we come together, of course, knowing what happened negatively for life in the last year, but also we're celebrating the wins that we saw. And I think For me, really what I'm seeing is a base of people being truly encouraged, coming together, knowing that we are fighting the good fight. And I think the other side knows, right? The abortion industry and their lobby knows that we are building on successes. And so they're fearful of that. And I think we're coming together to say we are winning and the end of Roe versus Wade is in sight.
Okay, on that note, we will leave it right there. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Melissa Oden, she is founder of the Abortion Survivors Network. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. House Democrats are now in their second day of making their case for impeaching President Trump in his Senate trial. During the evening session yesterday, lead House prosecutor Adam Schiff laid out a detailed timeline of contacts between officials from the United States and the Ukraine. The Democrats and then the president's team have 24 hours over 3 days to present their case. After the Democrats finish Friday, the president's lawyers will follow. They will take only Sunday off and push into next week. CBN News is providing special coverage of the impeachment saga. We're carrying the Senate impeachment trial of the president live every day right here on the CBN News Channel. Dozens of world leaders are in Jerusalem for the largest ever gathering focused on commemorating the Holocaust and fighting modern-day anti-Semitism. The World Holocaust Forum marks the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz death camp. The ceremony at Jerusalem's Holocaust Memorial is designed to project a united front against a spike in anti-Jewish violence in Europe and around the world. Vice President Mike Pence spoke at the event, calling on world leaders to confront Iran, which Israel considers to be its greatest enemy.
We must be prepared to stand as they did against the wave of their times. We must be prepared to confront and expose the vile tide of anti-Semitism that is fueling hate and violence all across the world, and we must stand together. In that same spirit, we must also stand strong against the leading state purveyor of anti-Semitism, against the one government in the world that denies the Holocaust as a matter of state policy and threatens to wipe Israel off the map. The world must stand strong against the Islamic Republic of Iran.
The audience included Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Russia's President Vladimir Putin, French President Emmanuel Macron, and the UK's Prince Charles. Chinese officials, well, they have gone to extreme measures to try to control the mysterious new coronavirus that has killed 17 and sickened more than 600. They have shut down travel out of Wuhan city on trains and airplanes. Wuhan, by the way, is a huge city of 11 million people. Right now is the height of the travel season because the Chinese are celebrating Lunar New Year. It is believed the virus originated in Wuhan when it was transmitted from an animal to a person at a seafood market, then transferred from humans to humans. An American who is a regular visitor to the area cannot believe his eyes because he says the place looks like a ghost town.
I'm in China. Nobody's at the shopping malls, and now nobody's at the movie theaters, and very few people are out and about. They've all got their groceries and they're staying in-house as much as possible to try to weather this situation.
Yeah, pretty dramatic, actually. Meanwhile, the man with the only diagnosed case here in the U.S. is in good condition at a Seattle area hospital. He apparently contracted it in Wuhan and flew back to Washington State last week. Doctors have him quarantined and are limiting their exposure to him by using robotic tools. The CDC is interviewing 16 people he was in close contact with in the U.S. before he sought medical attention. My good friend here, Lori Johnson, who covers all things health-related for our organization, joins me now. So, Lori, besides travel out of Wuhan, what other precautions are the Chinese taking to try to stop the spread of this virus?
Well, they really are going to extreme lengths. Yeah. Within the city of Wuhan, they have shut down public transportation, so you can't take a bus across town, shut down movie theaters, a lot of public places that are indoors. And then also Chinese officials have expanded the travel ban out of the area to nearby provinces. So now we're talking about 25 million people. That's more than the state of Florida. They can't get out of their area. And even in Beijing, the Forbidden City has been shut down. That's like one of the major tourist attractions. But that is closed indefinitely. And they're now talking about maybe discouraging people from coming into the area and even refunding their tickets. And here in the United States, the CDC has issued a travel ban to Wuhan and also areas near it.
Yeah, I'm curious, Lily, what does the World Health Organization say about this outbreak thus far?
Well, we told you yesterday that the WHO is considering declaring this a global health emergency, and they didn't do that yesterday. They're still considering it, but that's good news because they only make that designations for really serious, deadly, catastrophic diseases, and their credibility is on the line here. We're talking about things like Zika and Ebola, SARS and MERS. The thing about this is, obviously, 17 deaths is 17 too many, but we are talking about now over 600 people have been infected and, quote unquote, only 17 deaths. That's only about 2% of the people who get it die from it, and we know that the people who have died from it are older men in general who already had pre-existing health conditions. They were already weak and sick. And so this is about, you know, with SARS, there was a 10% death rate. With MERS, 35% death rate. 35% of the people who got it died from it. With this, it's around 2%. So they're still waiting to get more information to decide whether to declare it a global health emergency.
Yeah, on that point, and I think you talked about this a little bit, who is at most risk with getting this virus?
Right, so people are like, oh no, my kids here in America, in fact, in all of the other countries outside of China where people have contracted the virus, it is people who had been to Wuhan, China. So this man in Seattle, he had just come back from Wuhan. So for people who are watching right now, have you been there or have you been in close contact with someone who has been there? Symptoms, we talked about upper respiratory situations, difficulty breathing, cough, sore throat, fever, headache.
Yeah, okay, terrific. Lori, as always, thank you for that great analysis and information. Okay, folks, when we come back, we have to ask the question, why are some of America's biggest cities facing a growing problem of homelessness? We will answer that right after the break.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN NewsWatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today. Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
And welcome back. You are watching the CBN News Channel. Homeless numbers are surging in the San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, and other large U.S. cities. In New York City, homelessness is at the highest number since the Great Depression. So why is this problem growing now, especially in a time of economic prosperity? On this week's episode of the Global Lane, Michael Fisher, president of New York's Central Park South Civic Association, explains why he thinks the homeless should be removed from living on the city streets.
They need to have these facilities to rehabilitate these people, get them up to speed. Then once they're off the drugs and everything, or alcohol, or maybe they're mentally ill and they're given medications to help them there, then they can be trained, go out and get jobs, and be placed in affordable housing and live a normal life.
Out in California, I know Governor Gavin Newsom, he blames President Trump for the homeless problem in the Golden State, saying that HUD's withholding information that California needs to release funds to address the problem. So is Donald Trump to blame for homelessness there and in New York City?
Well, first of all, Mayor de Blasio is spending in excess of $1 billion in his second term. In his first term, he didn't do anything. Second term, $1 billion to open up 90 shelters that he wants to open up in the most expensive areas in the city. So there are these slumlords that own these buildings. They're making millions and millions of dollars, and it doesn't address the people on the street. The people on the street don't go into these shelters. These shelters are addressing moving people from one building, one shelter to another, or it's addressing the issue where people have like these early release programs out of prison and they go into these shelters, but it's not addressing the actual people that are living on the streets. Trump has nothing to do with this issue. I mean, I know that Mayor de Blasio is trying to blame Trump for his lack of affordable housing in New York City, but quite frankly, you can't blame Trump for this. You got to blame de Blasio for this because he's not helping people off the streets.
Well, de Blasio is the mayor, is he not? So what needs to be done beyond this? I know that Amazon and Microsoft are committing hundreds of millions of dollars for an affordable housing program for low-income Americans, but you say it's mostly mentally ill people, so would that work at all?
Well, I mean, I know that Amazon is putting together a program, you know, for people that need shelters to come in at night, and then once overnight they stay there and then they leave the next day. But that's not really addressing the problem on the streets. I think that, you know, what Google and Microsoft and all these other companies should be doing is sticking to what they do best, providing jobs. So how about we do this? How about we rehabilitate? How about maybe if they want, they can contribute funding towards rehabilitation if they'd like, if they want to donate their money to the government, although the government does have plenty of funding for that. But how about that these companies provide jobs for these people? Once these people are rehabilitated, how about Microsoft and Amazon and some of these other large companies provide training and jobs for people? For them to get into the, you know, shelter business, that's not their business. That's not what they do best. They do best creating jobs for people. Why don't they help the homeless people there? That would be great.
Well, I know Amazon wanted to come into New York, but AOC got involved in that, and then they said, forget it. So beyond that, quickly, what role can churches and ministries then play in all of this?
Oh, a big role. I think that the problem with government is they literally just, they create smoke and mirrors. They create the impression that they're doing things. Okay. For example, I know in New York, Mayor de Blasio, you know, creates this program called Turn the Tide program. So he has all these fancy names. He spends millions of dollars on brochures. He should also be sitting down with the churches and meeting with them and find out ways and putting together programs, you know, working together with the churches to find ways that the churches can also help the homeless people. It'd be great if we could get a summit together between the mayor of New York, governor of California, and mayors of the major cities in California, and some of the mayors and governors in some of the other states that are being impacted, you know, by this crisis, you know, where you're seeing people that are literally living in tents along streets. You see needles all over the place, people defecating in the streets. It's a terrible scenario. Let's have a productive meeting. Let's sit down and let's come up with some solutions to this problem. I don't think it's that complicated. I certainly would rather see politicians sitting down with the president and trying to come up with a solution than spending all this wasteful time on trying to impeach the president.
Okay, instead of pointing fingers, maybe coming up with solutions. Michael Fisher, president of New York Central Park South Civic Association, thank you for sharing those insights.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Be sure to watch the full episode of Global Lane tonight at 9:30 Eastern right here on the CBN News Channel. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after the break.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians in
Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. Almost 1 million migrants have entered the United States via our southern border in the past 12 months. But the rate is slowing due to a controversial policy called Remain in Mexico. An Associated Press report found that border arrests have fallen 94% since the policy took place in May. CBN contributing correspondent Chuck Holton is in southern Mexico, talking to those who hope the policy and the president who made it will soon be voted out of office.
The town of Tapachula in southern Mexico has always been a main stopover point for the caravans coming north to the United States. As a matter of fact, when I was right here just over a year ago in late 2018, there were just thousands of migrants in this town square here sleeping for the night. There's still a lot of migrants here. Actually, most of the people that you see in this park are Haitians or Cubans or Hondurans, but there's something different now, and that is it's gotten so much more difficult for them to make it to the United States, and that's a direct result of the Trump administration's stay in Mexico policy.
This 26-year-old Honduran was deported from the United States several years ago, but when he tried to return, he got stuck in Mexico.
We haven't had any answers from the immigration. There's no way we could get work. There's no way that we could have like a work permit. So we're basically stuck with no money, no information whatsoever of what's going on with our paperwork, and we're just signing and waiting.
See, the Trump administration has put the burden of the migrant crisis back onto Mexico. And what that means is that Mexico is taking a much stronger stand against illegal migration.
It has stopped them. The Mexican policies are not as easy now. It's getting harder for them to get have the visa for traveling through Mexico.
This little fishing village on the Pacific coast of Mexico is called Barrio de San Jose, and it's, according to the Mexican Federal Police, one of the places where migrants are getting in these ponga boats behind me and trying to get around the roadblocks so that they can make it illegally into the United States. But that's had some very negative consequences. Just a few months ago, several African migrants washed up dead on the shore north of here, and it just goes to show the lengths that these migrants are willing to go to try to make it to the United States.
The answer to migration, there's no answer. It's a phenomenon through the whole world. They're just running out of their countries because there's nothing for them there.
Now we're hearing that there's another caravan starting back in Honduras that may be here in Tapachula in the next several days. And the rumor on the street is that it may be made up of many of those who were deported from the first caravan in 2018.
My idea is to go to Tijuana, and in Tijuana I'm going to go ahead and try to make a living until Trump leaves the office. Once he leaves the office, hopefully everything is going to go back to normal, or the situation is going to get better for immigration laws, and we're going to go ahead and try to get up there.
I'm Chuck Holden for CBN News in Tapachula, Mexico.
After the break, South Florida residents woke up to frigid temperatures and an unlikely sight. We'll bring you that story next.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. Well, you have heard the phrase, it's raining cats and dogs, but in Florida, it's raining iguanas. Temperatures are dropping so low in South Florida that forecasters warned residents about iguanas falling from trees. The low temperatures stunned the cold-blooded reptiles, but don't worry, they aren't dead. The iguanas are expected to wake up as temperatures rise at the end of the week. Iguanas are native to Central America, tropical parts of South America, and some Caribbean islands. They've made their appearance in South Florida during the 1960s, and their numbers have increased dramatically in recent years. Well, folks, on that note, we end this edition of CBN News Watch. Have a great day from all of us here. Have a fantastic week.